Hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I've been helping people for 45 years learn to get their dysfunctional family out of them and to build a sense of self they were never taught, programmed, or allowed to have. Today I want to talk about how to rebuild the sense of self specifically for adult children of narcissists and dysfunctional and toxic parents. Number one, learn what your pseudo self is. So many people want to try to be themselves without first learning what is not themselves. And I think this is harder to teach if you're saying, I want you to just be your true self. I think it's easier to explore what's not your true self. What is the programming of your family of origin? What are the beliefs, emotional patterns, and dynamics that you were taught growing up in your family? I think those are easier to identify than to just identify, oh, this is me and this is the way I should function, and this is the true, genuine self I have. The difficulty with doing that approach, which I think is common in many self-help and self-esteem books, is that we are trying to build a true self out of a paradigm that's not a true self. Well, it's hard to think outside the box when you're inside the box. So first we have to learn what is the box. Then we can begin to find our true selves. And I teach that in the online program, Road to Self. And I'm going to talk to you about some free training here at the end that's free to you, 84 minutes. I would recommend it. I try to teach people to stop being who they aren't. Focus on learning your pseudo self, which is what a pseudo self is. It's not your true self. It's the self that pleases others. It's the self that fits into your family of origin dynamics. And it seems so normal. It seems so much like us. That's what's even more confusing, because it does feel genuine and it feels like us. But we want to identify the pseudo self first. And so we want to focus on learning your pseudo self. Your real self will begin to emerge from that work. And when I say what is your pseudo self, it's like learning systems feelings that are not truly your feelings, but feelings you're supposed to feel when this happens in your family of origin, or when that happened in your family of origin. If you tell your parents, hey, I can't be there this Sunday for a family dinner, and you feel guilty, that's a systems feeling. You haven't done anything wrong to feel guilty. It's that you're supposed to feel guilty so that you will either change your plans or you could be persuaded to come anyway against your own choices. So we want to learn about systems feelings versus true feelings. That's an example of learning about the pseudo self so we can actually find out what is our real self. Secondly, we want to learn to borrow objectivity from healthy sources. Because we are so caught up in the paradigm and inside the box, and what seems normal to us may actually be a false us, but it feels very normal, and it feels like that's who I am, because that's how ingrained and programmed it is. So we want to go outside of our box, outside of our awareness, to learn a new awareness through videos. Say, watching my videos. I got 500-600 videos that you can watch, all for free, and I would take advantage of that. So other videos from other coaches and teachers can be a help. Books are a way to find some objectivity outside yourself, and thinking about the ways in which, well, what would Betty do? In other words, what would my neighbor do in this situation? I'm borrowing her objectivity for my situation so I can think outside the box. And in my case, what would Dr. Stoneberg do? He was one of my first professors who talked to me about family systems theory, self-differentiation, and things such as that, and was a big help to me in beginning to doing my own work of self-differentiation. Therapy and coaching is a way to borrow objectivity from someone else. That's how therapists, I believe, can be really helpful. Not in making decisions for you, but in loaning some objectivity so you can make healthy decisions. Because when we're caught up in our family dynamics inside of us, which all of us have our family inside of us, it's good to begin to lean on some others, not to tell you what to do, but to bounce off their objectivity so that we can begin to decide for ourselves what is really us, what is not really us. What do I want to do? What do I not want to do? We may even find some wise friends or mature people in your life that could help you to become more objective. And we want to seek thinking outside of your paradigm box. We want to seek to do that. And that's what I do in my training, to help you with some tools and ways to think outside. Thirdly, ask better questions about the self. One of the things that's important to become more self-differentiated is we have to change the questions that we ask. Like asking the question, well, why don't I just stop doing what I don't want to do? That may not be a very helpful question. Or why do I feel I'm worthless? And again, that may not be such a helpful question in trying to examine the self. How do I find my real self? And that's like asking, and people will ask, how do I find my real self? And I'm going, oh gosh, they're asking that how question again. How is not always the best question, especially when it should be a when question. When are you going to begin to find, accept, and become self-aware of your real self? It's a when, not a how. And I think when questions sometimes can also be the very best. Like, well, how can I give up this guilt that I feel all the time when I'm around my mother? Well, how is not such a good question. When am I going to give up this guilt? When I'm around my mother all the time and I feel this guilt all the time. How do I get rid of my guilt and shame? Not a crazy question, but may not be as helpful. How do I grow up? How am I not grown up? How do I set boundaries with my family? If we're looking for how, then we're probably not to the when place yet. What are the downsides and the upsides of, say, setting boundaries with my family? I may want to explore what are the pluses and minuses of doing that. I may discover why I'm still stuck. Fourthly, begin slowly and in small ways exploring self-awareness. Begin to become more connected with yourself through self-awareness. What are your beliefs? What are your true feelings? What are true feelings versus your system's feelings? What are your preferences? Asking good questions about the self that if no one else was bothered, nobody else cared about what decision I made, what decision would I make? That's kind of a true decision without the influences of pleasing everybody else. That tends to be a more genuine answer to that question. Beliefs, true feelings versus systems feelings, preferences. What are your desired boundaries? If you could have any boundaries in the world, what would you decide? And if nobody else would be troubled by that at all, then you begin to learn yourself. You may not be ready to do it, but you're learning about, well, if I could do anything, then this holiday I would tell them I don't want to come on Christmas morning. I'd like to do that with my family, but I'd be happy to come on Christmas Eve. That's what I'd really like to do. That would be the boundary I'd like to set. Then you work on when will you be ready to set that boundary. And again, understanding they're going to be disappointed. You're not going to be living according to their happiness and what makes them happy. And you're not going to be doing things that are going to lower their anxiety. It actually may raise their anxiety. Are you okay with that? Can you let someone else be disappointed? If you can't, it's going to be hard to grow up because everybody would like you to be a certain way. So for you to be you, it may not be pleasing to everybody in how you're going to be. Also, we may want to ask the question, in what ways are you really different from your family of origin? In what ways are you really different from them? So begin to go through the family's beliefs. The family's unspoken rules, the family's spoken rules, the family's spiritual, religious beliefs, financial beliefs, emotional, psychological beliefs. I know one of the beliefs, in my family is you don't really express your feelings, or I didn't growing up. That wasn't the norm. well, is that going to be the norm for me? I may not be ready to flesh it all out completely, but at least I'm going, that's not what I want to do. I do want to have feelings in my life, and I want to be able to share feelings with other people. And it's going to feel a little uncomfortable because your family taught you the opposite. So we recognize the discomfort of that and begin to slowly and in small ways explore our self-awareness. Please join the free training below. It's an 84-minute free training. I think you would really enjoy it. How to become the self you were never allowed to be. And I think that would really be a help to you in exploring these things further. I want to thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe, please comment, and please like this video. Thank you for all of you who've watched today. Have a great day and be wise.